We are learning Mishnayos Bava Kamma, and we are still in the middle of Perek Beis, Mishnah Hey, Chapter 2, Mishnah 5. So let's start reading again from the beginning. Shar Hamaz B'Shus Hanizik, where the Mishnah previously mentioned that a ox that damages, here referring to Keren, it gored, that it injured something else, or damaged something else intentionally, B'Shus Hanizik, and it does it in the property of the one who got damaged. So we say that even then, if it's a tam, it hasn't done it 3 times. Nonetheless, once it happens in Rishus HaNizik, the halacha is the owner pays nezek shalom, the complete damages. So Ketzad, what's the case? Nogach, noshach, rabatz, boat, Rishus harabim. Were he to gore, were he to push, bite, squat, or kick in a public place, then we say mishal mechatzi nezek. If it's a tam, you pay half damages. B'shus hanizik, but if it happens in the property, on the property of the one who got damaged, Reb Tarfon oimer nezek shalom. Reb Tarfon says you pay full damages. The Chachamim say no difference between public or the domain of the one who is injured. If it's a tam, you pay half nezek. Okay, so this is where we got through this. This next part is going to be a review of yesterday, but we need to get it clear in order to get the rest of the Mishnah. Amar lam Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon said to them, meaning this is Rabbi Tarfon's source to say that even though the animal is a tam, if the damage happens on the property of the one who got damaged, then he pays full damages. Uma b'makoy m'sheik ala shem v'ala regel. We find that in a place where you were lenient, where the Torah was lenient rather, on the damagers of tooth and foot, meaning eating and trampling, which is b'shus harabim, in a public domain, shu pater, that there the person exempted the owner of the animal completely. Nonetheless, hachmer aleim b'shus hanizek. So the Torah was lenient with them in the b'shus harabim to say exempt. But hachmer aleim b'shus hanizek, but the Torah was strict with them in the case where it happens on the property of the person who got damaged, the shalom nezek shalom, to pay full damages. If shein v'regel occurs in the domain of the person who got damaged, you pay full damages. Mokim shehechmer ala keren. So in a place where the Torah was strict regarding the damager of keren, of the horn, as we just said before, all the examples. B'shus harabim, in a public domain, even in a public domain, the Torah was strict, which is l'shal mechatzi nezek, which is to pay half damages. In contrast to shein v'regel, you won't pay anything in Rishus harabim. Einoi din shenachmer le b'shus hanizik. Should it not follow that we should be strict on it, or actually stricter on it, in the domain of the person who got damaged, l'shal nezek shalom, to pay full nezek? So let's repeat it. The Kal v'chomer is like this: the place where the Torah was lenient, by shein v'regel, which was Rishus harabim, and you're completely exempt when it happens there. When it happens in the domain of the person who got damaged, you pay full damages. So we see that by shein v'regel, the Torah was more lenient in a public domain than in the domain of the person who got damaged. So now, taking a look at Keren, where even in a public domain, which is supposed to be the less strict area, you still have to pay chatzi nezek, half damages. That means in the less strict area, the Torah was stricter than it was by shein v'regel. Then, when it comes to the Rishus HaNizik by damaging, all the more so we should say that it should be stricter than the public domain, and it should pay nezek shalom. It should pay the full damages. Follow that Kal v'chomer? The point is the Kal v'chomer here at this point is looking at the places where it's happening. When you're talking about, you see by shein v'regel, which by a public area, exempt. In the domain of the person who got damaged, full damages. So what do you see? You see that the Torah is clearly more strict, at least by shein v'regel we see, the Torah was more strict by the domain of the person who got damaged than the public domain. So by Keren, where we find the Torah is even strict by the public domain, in as much that you pay half nezek, half damages there, all the more so, in the case of the Rishus HaNizik, which is a stricter area, we should say full damages. Follow that? It's Kal v'chomer. It's a Kal v'chomer. And the Kal v'chomer is based off what we see by shein v'regel regarding these domains, And if by Shein V'Regel we see that the private domain is stricter than the public domain, meaning the domain of the person who got damaged is stricter than the public area, then by Keren, where we see that the Torah was strict even by the public domain, which was the place that was lenient by Shein V'Regel, all the more so we should say that the domain of the person who got damaged, the Torah should be as strict, should be stricter there also, and pay Nezek Shalem. By the case of Shein V'Regel, we saw that the Rishus HaNizik domain of the Nizik was stricter than the public domain. So all the more so we should say that by Keren, where we see that even in the lenient place of Rishus HaRabim, the Torah was strict. Okay. Amrullah, they said to him, meaning the sages responded from Tarfin, Dayoy laba min hadin liyais kanidin. It's enough to what's being derived from the Kal V'chomer to be like where it's derived from. Ma b'rishus harabim chatzi nezek, just like in a public area you pay half damage, af b'rishus hanizek chatzi nezek, so too in the domain of the person who got damaged, half nezek. Meaning, the Kal V'chomer at the end of the day is based on, meaning the idea of saying you should pay nezek shalem in the domain of the person who got damaged is why, because we see that even in the public domain, Keren paid half nezek. So if in the public domain Keren paid half nezek, then the domain of the person who got damaged, which we see is stricter than the public domain, it should have the same stricture like you should have that same strictness that we find by Shein V'Regel, that you pay a full nezek in the domain of the nizik. But at the end of the day, the Kal V'chomer works that. Meaning, what's the basis to say that there should be full nezek by Keren in the domain of the person who got damaged? Of course, we see the idea of which area is strict, which area is more strict, which area is less strict. That we see by Shein V'Regel. But once we see the areas, the difference between the areas, and we see that by Keren, even in the more lenient area, we were strict to say half nezek. So if that's what we see, if that's what we see by Keren in the less strict place, so the more strict place should be more strict, and it should have nezek shalom, it should have full damages. That's the Kal V'chomer. But that's the point where the Chachamim say you can't do that. If at the end of the day your basis for the Kal V'chomer is based on the Keren in the public domain, and there all you pay is half nezek, the Kal V'chomer can say, for sure pay half nezek in the domain of the person who got damaged. But it can't tell you to do more than that. Can't tell you to do more. So you're right. You know, if in the area of the public domain, of the private domain of the damaged person is stricter than the public domain, but nonetheless, if you're basing it off that, in that public domain, all you pay is chatzi nezek, then for sure pay chatzi nezek in the domain of the person who got damaged, but not more. Mm-hmm. So now Rabbi Tarfon said, okay, I'll tweak things a little bit. Amar lahem, he said to them, Ani lo adun Keren mi Keren. I'm not judging Keren from Keren. Now I'm not going to set up the Kal V'chomer like I just did, that at the end, the Keren in the domain of the person who got damaged is derived from the Keren in the public domain. Ani adun Keren me Regel. I'm going to judge the Keren, meaning the damaging of the Keren of the horn, from the damager of the foot, meaning Regel. Uma, and it'll go like this. Uma b'makoyim shekel ala shein v'ala regel b'shus harabim. We find that in the place where the Torah was lenient by shein and regel, which is a public domain, hechmer b'keren, the Torah was strict by keren, meaning we're going to show you keren is stricter than regel. How is that? Because in the place where the Torah said that shein b'regel are exempt, which is a public domain, by keren the Torah said you're going to pay half nezek. So you see that Keren is stricter, more severe than Shein V'Regel. If so, Mokem Shehechmer ala Shein v'ala Regel, in the place where the Torah was strict by Shein V'Regel, which is Rishus HaNizik, which is on the domain of the person who got damaged, and we say you pay full damages. Ein Din Shenachmer b'Keren? Shouldn't we be strict by Keren too? Meaning here the Kal V'chomer, it's a little tweak, but the point is that I'm taking the Kal V'chomer is, I see Keren is stricter than Shein V'Regel, and therefore, if I see something by Shein Varegel, I'm for sure going to say it by Keren. So I know that Keren is stricter than Shein Varegel because in a public domain, Shein Varegel is Shein and Regel are exempt. Keren is Chayiv Chatzi Nezek. Okay, that's where I see that Keren is more strict, is stricter than Regel. Fine, Shein Varegel. Fine. So now, if so, in the case of Rishus HaNizik, in the case of the domain of the person who got damaged, you see that in that case, Shein Varegel, the lesser one, the less severe one, pays full damages. Well, if it pays full damages in the domain of the person who got damaged, all the more so, the stricter Keren should do so. So at the end of the day, my basis to say that I'm paying full damages in the domain of the person who got damaged by Keren is because if I say that by Shein Varegel, which I know is less severe, all the more so, I should say it by Keren that is more severe. So that's what I'm basing it from. And therefore, you're going to tell me Dayoy? There's no Dayoy here. The same way Shein Varegel in the domain of the person who got damaged pays Nezek Shalem, all the more so, Nezek Shalem should be paid by the Keren in the domain of the person who got damaged. Should be good. And that, the Gemara said, Amruloi, they still said to him, Dayoy laba min adin liyes kanidin. It's enough for that which is derived from the Kal V'chomer to be like what is derived from. Mabrishus harabim chatzi nezek, just like Keren in the public domain pays half damages, aprishus anizik chatzi nezek, even in the domain of the person who got damaged, it's only half damages. What the Mishnah is saying here is that I still apply Dayoy. Even though I changed the Kal V'chomer around, but at the end of the day, the only way I can make this Kal V'chomer if I know that Keren b'shus harabim is chatzi nezek. Right? That's the basis to know that Keren is stricter than Regel. And if that is the basis now to say Keren is stricter than Regel, so even though the end result is that I'm learning Keren from Regel, because I'm saying what is by the more lenient damager of Regel certainly should be by the more stricter damager of Keren, but since I cannot even say that unless I know that Keren is Chatzi Nezek b'shus harabim, right? Without that, I can't make the Kal V'chomer, because that is how I know that Keren is stricter than Regel. Well, if that is what I need for the Kal V'chomer, what I need by the Kal V'chomer is to establish that Keren and b'shus harabim is Chatzi Nezek, and I need that in order to make the Kal V'chomer, then already we still apply Dayoy. We still say, can't go further than that. Can't be better than that. If at the end of the day, I need Keren b'shus harabim, which is Chatzi Nezek, in order to make the Kal V'chomer, then at the end of the day, what I apply to Keren b'shus HaNizik can't be better. And therefore, they argued on Rabbi Tarfon at the end, that Rabbi Tarfon says that if the animal gores in the domain of the private person, even though it's a tam, you pay full nezek, full damages. The Chachamim argued and said that no, you don't. If it's a tam, no matter where it happens, it is only half damages. And as the Bartanura says, the halach is like the Chachamim. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.